Do 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 do. I'm just making it up. I'm not even like. There's not even that's not even a tune to anything. He loves the Michigan State.
No, I do not know. I do, no. Michigan State is not. No.
And he really loves Ohio State.
Don't say it. No. Now he's gonna make me
Ohio State.
For me, I'm more of like the front end of it.
I'm just making it up. Of a similar nature or character.
JMKast. JMKast.
But we get shocked often by Chris.
If you Google my name, it always pulls up Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan. That's another story for another time though. Why does it say 04? Oh, that says 04 because I double punched that. Okay, Dana, because that's what he does at the beginning of half the episodes.
I'm just making it up. I'm not even like. There's not even that's not even a tune to anything. Who's Dana?
Huh?
Who's Dana?
Dana.
Who's Dana?
All right.
Anyway, hey, welcome back. We're at JMKast, the JMKast.
Yeah. Greg Johnson.
Greg T. Johnson.
Greg T. Johnson. And Rick Mulligan here. I'll get it right at some point.
But wait, your hat says the Joe.
No, my hat is referring to the former home of the Detroit Red Wings, and it closed down in 2017. And
I got this hat the Joe.
Yeah, because it was the nickname Joe Louis Arena. It was Joe Louis Arena was named after the boxer that my grandpa got knocked out by when he was a kid.
Hey, by the way, in case anyone didn't know, Rick is from Michigan.
Yes. Now you may die hard.
He loves the Michigan State.
No, I do not know. I do, no. Michigan State is not. No.
And he really loves Ohio State.
Don't say it. No. Now he's gonna make me
Ohio
mad.
State.
I got such a great. I had such an like. Did I ever tell you the story? I was at Buc-ee's. What the guy said to me.
At Buc-ee's?
I'm at Buc-ee's and I have a Michigan shirt on.
Wait, what's Buc-ee's?
Shut up, man. The most popular gas station in Texas.
Buc-ee's.
I'm at Buc-ee's and Ohio have this thing. They say OH and then the other person's supposed to say IO because evidently they can't spell it without assistance. It's a hard word. And I walk in and I have a Michigan shirt on.
No offense to Ohio State fans.
Total offense to Ohio State fans. And he looks at me as I walk past him, bigger than me. I'm a big guy. He's bigger than me. And he looks, he hasn't showered in a better part of a decade. And he looks at me and he goes, OH. And of course, I'm not going to say the second half of it because I can't stand Ohio State. And I look at him and I go, you gonna finish it? There's just two letters and one's the same as the other one. Do you need help? We're in Buc-ee's and he looks at me and he drops the biggest F-bomb and tells me to go F myself. And he's screaming at me and I look at him and I go, keep it classy, Ohio. And I just kept walking. And it was one of those things where I was like, you made yourself look like an idiot, dude. Like, you think a Michigan fan's going to say your chant back to you? Come on, dude.
Why would he do that? That is kind of weird.
It's stupid.
Does he not know about the rivalry?
I mean, he is, for years.
Is he unaware?
For years, there wasn't much
of this has been ingrained into my head for the last several years that I've known you, Rick. Ohio State, Michigan.
Ohio State will give me. I'm not kidding you. When I see stickers on people's cars, it is a it is a visceral reaction. I cannot stand Ohio State.
To be perfectly honest, though, I don't know which colleges I can talk about with Rick with Michigan because Notre Dame is Notre Dame.
They don't play each other anymore.
What about I know Northwestern.
God, there's a whole other story there. Northwestern's brutal because they always play Michigan tough, and I've watched games where Northwestern's beat them. Here, this will tell you how much of a diehard Michigan fan I was. When I worked at Channel 3 in Kalamazoo, I went to every Michigan game for 5 years. I was on the sidelines for 5 years. I was at Appalachian State. When Appalachian State, a Division II school, beat them.
I remember.
Yeah, that sucked. I was standing with the student section directly behind me.
Yeah, y'all were supposed to be good that year.
They were. They were supposed to win. That was Lloyd Carr's last year. They were supposed to just.
Yeah, that was.
And I was at Toledo.
That was a brutal.
And I was
brutal.
at Toledo when they lost to a MAC school. Only time in the history at the time, the only time in history that a MAC team had beaten a Big Ten team.
You would think it's already football season if you're listening to this podcast right now. And
I was at two of the biggest upsets in the history of Michigan football.
I promise we talk about video production. I do make a promise that we will eventually talk about video production. It may be the next episode.
Now, hang on, though. But my history of I shot, and we talked about in the earlier episode about shooting high school football.
High school football.
You talked, but shooting.
Wait, not high school. You were talking about
you talked
hockey.
You talked about shooting high school football, though.
Yes, I did.
I have done that as well, which
Okay.
I loved. That is hands down the favorite thing I've ever done.
Have you ever shot a Michigan game?
I have. I've shot several. I have.
When you were at the Channel 3, right?
I shot. I did. So the trade-off was I went.
And
to
how
our
much did
sports
you
guy.
like that?
I loved it. My credit
see,
card.
that was
my
like-
credit card is still a photo I took from the field.
See, that was like me when I got to go do the Texas Red River rivalry and be on the.
It's awesome.
It's gonna be like literally on. Oh, that's
So-
really cool.
I've been to 5 Michigan State games. Michigan was 4-1. I went to 4 Michigan Ohio State games. Never saw Michigan beat them live. I went to Michigan Notre Dame once. That stadium's awful. I cannot stand Notre Dame Stadium. Michigan won that game. I've seen Appalachian State. I saw Toledo. I'm trying to think what else. I've seen the biggest comeback in Michigan history. I was at the game when they came back from 19-0 to beat Wisconsin, where the Michigan student section was behind where I would stand. And I wore a Detroit Red Wings shirt there. Well, they were playing Wisconsin. Man, the students let me hear it the whole game because I was wearing red. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to wear red. But shooting high school football, I love that more than anything. Like, I love what we do. I love our business. But I'm telling you right now, if someone called me and said, do you want to shoot a game on Friday night? I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Well, we have a switcher.
No, I want to be on the field. I want to have the camera.
But I'm saying we potentially could. Harvey can be up in the. He can do the switcher.
I would love.
Harvey probably doesn't want to be on the field. He's been on the field plenty.
Yeah, he's been on the field a lot. I would do. So I got hit. I had a coach hit me.
Though I'd like to see one of the high school kids come on the sideline and try to knock in front,
run into him and
run into
fall
Harvey
over. It was funny when I first did a high school football game. I barely hit shot at the time. Same thing what you said in a previous podcast where you're like, hey, all hands on deck. So I was brand new shooter. I don't even think I'd done it a year. And the chief sports guy at my old station, so I shoot my first night. I've never done it before. There's no way it's going to look good. I have no idea what I'm doing. I got no coaching from anyone. I went raw. It's terrible. I knew it was terrible. He literally the next week refused to send me unless I was going to go be up in the bleachers and shoot from the bleachers on a tripod. And our chief photog was like, no, he has to go. We don't have a choice. And he goes, come with me. And he gave me like a 20-minute crash course, which was better than what I had the week before.
Right.
So when I shot, it came out, it was much better. I mean, if you went from what I did week 1 to week 2, huge improvement. So as the season goes on, you get better, whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, that gentleman ends up leaving the station, thankfully. And the new guy who takes over became a very good friend of mine who now works for Michigan. He's now one of the sports reporters for Michigan Sports. He's on mgolive.com, and he does all kinds of stuff. So he had me, and I became their number 1 sports shooter. Like, I became the guy we all were, but I was the guy that he would send me the best games. Because I was a really fast editor and I could get back, and you had to edit your own highlights.
Right.
So I'm doing a game one year and I'm staying on the sidelines and I'm on about the 40. And you're supposed to be about 20 yards ahead of the play. So wherever direction you are, you're about 20 yards ahead so you can see the play. It's high school. Very few plays are going to go for much more than, big chunks. And they're on the 9-yard line. This team's getting blown out. I'm literally leaving after this play. And the kid comes through the line, and he's gone. It's going to be a 91-yard touchdown run. Oh, wow. And I'm panning, and I'm panning, and I'm panning, and I realize that I'm standing on the sidelines, and the players are doing the side shuffle, following him. And I'm like, please don't hit me. Please don't hit me. At this point, I'm committed to following this kid into the end zone. and all of a sudden my right knee gets hit. I go down. My right knee gets twisted up behind me bad, and I almost tear my meniscus. I fall down. The camera bounces off my chest, and I catch the kid running into the end zone.
There you go.
So I still get the touchdown.
There's just like a little small section where you have to like kind of figure out how to edit that out.
Nope, they didn't edit it out. They aired it just as it was.
Oh, there you go. Sometimes that's better.
It was hilarious. So my knee is so messed up, I couldn't put any weight on it. There's a knee doctor in the stands. Comes out, I can't stand. I get to the car. I have to drive back to the station using my left foot because I can't use my right leg. I get back, I edit my highlights, whatever. And so like that was the first time I'd ever been like injured on the sidelines. But
Right.
I still I think it took me 2 or 3 weeks before I was able to go back and shoot again on the sidelines. But I was still right back as quick as I could. I love shooting high school football.
Yeah. Well, just shooting football in general, especially for people who are football fans.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's
different.
some of the more fun assignments. Now, I will say, my back tends to, because you're like so tensed up trying, especially if you're like one of those guys that's trying to go to like all ball.
Right.
And you can't do it. You can't do it usually early in the season, and you can't do it when you first start out.
No, it's
like it
impossible.
literally takes practice
It
to
took me
do
3
that.
years.
And
I'm still not very good at it.
And the way I would do it, and if I was fortunate to shoot enough football within a season.
Right.
The thing is, I know for me when I was at Channel 8, it would be a game here or there.
Right.
There was no consistency.
It was not
of
enough to
how
get the
often.
repetitions.
So I had to be real careful. I had to shoot it a lot looser, a lot wider. But even then, about halftime, I've kind of got my groove back.
Right.
And I'm always you start tight, you pull out, you try not to get faked out by the fake.
Which happens.
Which even the best photographers, Arnold Payne, like
Best in
one
the
of
business.
and always you'll even see them get faked out.
I watched his entire
and I'm like,
game tapes, and it
it just happens. And the
Yeah.
worst part is when it happens on a game play that goes for a touchdown or something, and it's always going to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's their intent to
Yeah.
fake the other. If it looked real, it looked real.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's why I would like go wider, and then especially if it was a pass, and then when they get ready to pass, that's when I go for the ball and then
Right.
start following it to wherever it goes.
There was a school in Michigan, Constantine High School, and they ran what's called the wing tee. Mm-hmm. And one of three guys was getting the ball handed off, and they all did the arm up, arm down, so you didn't know who was coming out. So you just had to follow one of them and hope you guessed right. I mean, and they all wore black. And one year they tried wearing brown gloves, and the refs made them take them all off because they were trying to hide the ball,
Right.
like sleeves,
Yeah.
and so they made them take them off.
Oh, wow.
But if you got Constantine on your schedule, you're just like, oh no, because they're
like-
never gonna pass. They never passed,
And
it was
you never knew which of the three guys was getting it.
you were wide, medium, or short. You never knew which one.
Oh, wow.
And it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. 3 yards in a cloud. I mean, that's how they played football. No joke. The coach was like, I want 3 yards on the first play, 3 yards on the second, and 4 on the third. And it was like, okay. And he wanted clock management. He wanted to. And they would routinely eat up. Halftime would be 14-0, and the other team had the ball for 3 minutes.
Right.
Because they would just eat up clock. So, but that's one of the fun part. I mean, that's the fun part of shooting football. Like there's so many different styles of shooting video, the different things,
Right.
and we do everything.
And
We do everything but weddings.
Yeah.
We probably would do a wedding if I'm just not interested in them. But I mean, when you look at the different, shooting sports, shooting podcasts, shooting interviews, telling stories, because that's ultimately our thing, is telling stories.
Yeah.
I would have to, I mean, I don't know if you agree, I would think you do, that telling stories is what we're really good at.
Right.
And that's what
Right.
we, especially with our clients, like almost every client who comes to me, I'll tell them, I'm like, well, we're storytellers, what's your story? I'll ask them, I'm like, what's your story? And they're like, well, I just need this shot. And I'm like, yeah, but there's still a story there. Even if it's a commercial, like you're trying to figure out like what their story is.
Right.
Like that's the best, to me, the best part, especially when they can tell you their story and you're like, oh, I can convey that.
Well, I mean, just any kind of good video production, your number one thing is going to be content. Like, content needs to be in the story when I'm talking about content. Like, it needs to tell something.
Sure.
You can't just like, I mean, to a degree, we're just kind of like ad-libbing this.
Well, of course. I mean, we've discussed a little bit of what we're going to say ahead of time, but
but we've come up with some sort of plan of like, okay, this is today's episode. We're going to talk about X, Y, Z.
We spent 5 or 10 minutes beforehand just
we
loosely discussing, but never like, we're not getting into conversation.
Now, how much did we talk about? We were going to discuss about college and high school football for this one. No,
it just.
But that's the way it happened.
It just worked.
But sometimes that's the way it is.
But you had mentioned it earlier in a previous episode.
Of course.
And you talked about
it.
And
there's lots of video production stuff.
Sparked in me of like, oh yeah, man, I love high school football. I love going to high school football games. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, and so far, we haven't done that for our business. We haven't done that as a client, but that doesn't mean we won't, and that doesn't mean we're not going to be offered to do it. So, I mean, we have one person that we've used, another person that we used, Nigel.
Oh yeah.
He's shooting
NFL.
Cowboys NFL all the time. He's like one of the premier freelance.
He's so good.
And and love his cameras.
Oh, right. So a few years ago, God, it's been a while. It may be even 10 years ago now. I shot high school games for a parent that wanted of their one son. So I go to the game and they paid me $100 for the night to just shoot their son. Their son played defense, so I had to shoot half the game.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they wanted a highlight. So I just grayed everything out, put a little bubble on him, and then just keyed it so that it followed him on each play. He wasn't very good. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't very good. But this second game I did, another woman came up and she's like, hey, would you do the same thing with my son? They're on the same team. And I was like, sure. What does he play? He literally played the opposite tackle. So they were on the same, they were on the field at the same time. One was on the top, one was on the bottom.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, God, I don't have to shoot offense. I don't have to worry about the offensive side of the ball.
But how are you getting both at the same?
We just shoot the play wide. Because I'm shooting, they want it wide because it's for coaches and stuff. So they want to see the whole play. Right. They don't care about it in tight because they want to be able to send it out. And man, this second kid was a beast.
Oh, really?
He was in on almost every play. He was tackles for loss, sacks. Like, this kid was awesome to watch. I think he ended up going to like a D2 school.
So you ended up getting.
So I got $200.
You were getting $200 a night instead
of
the
editing took forever.
Yeah,
because you've got to go through
the plays,
and some of the plays, nothing happens.
Yeah, you want the highlights. You don't. But
it was
every play.
Out of probably each game, I probably ended up being like a 6-minute highlight reel. So you shoot half the game because you're only shooting, defense. But then one kid would go in on offense a couple times, so you had to, you always had to kind of pay attention to the numbers. So, and it helped that I sat next to the parents, so the parents would,
I would like for us in the future, maybe, because now that we have live streaming, we have a switcher, we have multiple cameras. Yeah. I would love to see us go to like, shoot a game.
I'd love to
as who knows? Who knows where we might be able to go with that?
There's definitely enough.
And there's definitely schools that do that regular. I mean, we just did a senior banquet for one school, and supposedly their team did basically. Yeah, they were every week. They had a link to some sort of JMKast that they were doing on video.
Wow.
So I know there's schools that do that.
That'd be awesome.
And it was weird though. It was like every time it was like it went a different company. Like
really, it wasn't the same.
Would do like 2 or 3 weeks. It'd be this one company, and then the next couple would be a different company. And
really,
it was very strange how which I didn't understand. I don't know if it was like one person that owns all these different companies, or if it's and then just changing the name, or just because of scheduling, especially with other schools or what. Maybe the two schools go together and book the.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways why that is probably happening the way it is.
I'd love
But
it. I'd love.
yeah, it'd be, and so yeah, if you you're listening and you have a school and you want your football team to have a game cast, hey, JMK Creative Group would love to do that, because that would be pretty cool stuff to do. We do love some football.
My eyes are like golf ball or volleyballs right now. Like I have an idea. Like, yes,
I
let's
want
do that.
it. I want
every
it
Friday
now.
night. I would love it every Friday night. That'd be awesome.
Well, we'll have to figure out how to do podcast and football games on the same day.
We'll worry about that later. I'm not worried about that right now. We'll worry about that later. We'll worry about that later. So here, my question for you then, in terms of when you're like, how do I want to ask this? So for yourself, for what we do, what's your favorite element of what we do? Like, what's your favorite part of this business? Whether it's doing something for the client or delivering a product, what's the part about it for you that you get all excited about? And you can't say getting paid.
I like just the process of delivering the finished element to the client, and just seeing their response.
Okay.
And it's different, So obviously, the first time you send it, you're gonna get people to say, "Hey, we want this changed or that changed," and maybe it's something has nothing to do with us and what we did. It has to do with safety concerns, or there could be all kinds of reasons why they want something changed in a video. But once you get past all that, so I love hearing from the client when they really like it.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better than
especially when they like it to the degree of like they're impressed, like, wow, we didn't know that it would turn out like that.
Right.
And that always feels real nice to know
awesome.
that, because I mean, we put a lot of care into it. We put a lot of time and energy, and there's obviously some projects that we are probably a little more passionate about than others, and it's strange because we have some clients that we do stuff for in the video production world, and they're not necessarily our strong suits, yet we do that a lot. Like that's what they have us do. That's what we are to that client. Right. Yet they have needs in the realm that we're good at, but we just don't get, for whatever reason, assigned to do those kind of things.
I think we will. I think
eventually, I think that'll happen. The final version sent to the client. That's that.
When they give you the thumbs up and say you're done.
And it's not because we're done. It's because I like the reaction.
Right, no. Yeah.
I like knowing that we satisfied, or more than satisfied, what they hoped we would do for them. So
I love for me, it's the figuring out what it's going to be process.
Right.
For me, I'm more of like the front end of it. Like, I love okay, so what is this? Like, what do we do? Like, I love when you're driving, especially if you're driving with a client and you can have that time in the car to talk. So like when, one of our clients, we drive with them quite often, and then usually about a good chunk of the conversation will be what story are we telling today? And I love that, like, well, we're going to do this, we're going to interview this person does this, because then for me, the wheels start turning of how we're going to put the story together. Like, okay, so I know we need to get this, I know we need to get this. It'd be cool if we can do this. Like we did one recently where we were in a lab, and they were, pouring things out and pouring things in, and all I wanted to do was take the GoPro so badly and put it underneath this oil and have them pour it right on the camera. But I know we can't do that, and I'm like, I was looking for a plastic bag to put the camera in, or something, and it didn't work. But like things like that are where my head.
The old aquarium.
Yeah, or we threw the ice, and I threw the camera in the ice bucket, and the ice gets thrown on top. Like, I love that stuff.
Oh, for sure, action shots.
So when you can start to like turn the wheels and be like, okay, what's
nice to be able to use the action cameras
they're gonna go nuts.
in action.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always get to.
No.
But that's your favorite process, is just the figuring out.
Figuring,
Yeah.
you know, the phone call conversations where you're talking on the phone.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I just like the discovery of how we, honestly, I like the whole process.
so do I.
I
do
mean,
too. That's just my favorite.
The whole process. And
But my ultimate favorite is lunch.
yeah.
I love it when we break for lunch.
Lunch is great when we get it.
Yeah. Which usually we try to work into all projects. But
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen.
Yeah, if you ever want to book JMK Creative Group, we have a website.
Yep.
What is it, Rick?
JMKcreativegroup.com. There's a link on there that you can reach out. It'll come to me through the way the email setup is on there, and I'll call you back and we'll get you going. Or if you want to call one of us directly at my phone number, I don't no problem. It's 269-599-2704. Feel free to text or call me. We'd love to set up appointments to work with you and put your projects in the world.
Yeah, and if they're football, then yeah, Rick definitely wants to hear that call. All right, goodbye.
Like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Bye.